Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday to everyone. I am most thankful for people that send me articles to do stories on. Here today, I will be reporting on the Nottoway Plantation that has burned down in Louisiana. It's the oldest plantation, but actually, they had changed it into a venue where they were having parties and receptions. Now, people are rejoicing. And the reason people are rejoicing is because Nottoway Plantation was built by slaves in 1859. They built trees for the family that owned the house, but the slaves never got recognition. And see, this is the problem that we have is slaves built it. They didn't get recognized. The owner was a millionaire. He was rich. Sugar man, as they called him. And they could have made it right by giving the slaves that built that home, made those sugar canes, stripped them for them to make sugar. They could have given those slaves some money. So without further ado, I'm going to show you some videos so you will know just exactly what is going on and people's reactions. And hello, Michelle, TNT family.
In the South was destroyed by fire. Within hours, the internet erupted. Some mourning the loss of a, quote, historic treasure, while others expressed relief that a monument to slavery and white supremacy had finally fallen. The polarized reactions exposed a deeper divide in how America remembers its past and whose stories are centered in that remembrance. One social media user remarked, "It's a sick thing that in the United States, literal torture and human trafficking sites are used for weddings." Another user exclaimed, "I will never understand why plantations are romanticized and not given the same respect like Auschwitz. It's just weird behavior."
There are two types of people who should avoid taking gabapentin for neuropathy. Anyone who wants to keep both legs healthy, anyone who...
Built in 1859, the estate was the largest remaining antebellum mansion in the South before its destruction. While its 53,000 square feet and 64 rooms have long drawn fascination, the full history of Nottoway Plantation cannot be told without the lives and labor of the Black people enslaved there who made the owner's prosperity possible. Yet the property, which eventually turned into an event venue and resort, honored 11 trees by name, but not the 155 enslaved people who built and sustained it. Here's what we know about the plantation and the enslaved people so far. John Hampton Randolph, a wealthy sugar planter originally from Virginia, commissioned the construction of Nottoway at the age of 42. A father of 11, the businessman oversaw the creation of the 64-room mansion with the explicit goal of displaying his wealth and dominance in Louisiana's plantation aristocracy. At the height of his enterprise, he enslaved 155 African Americans, those who made his prosperity possible. Nottoway boasted features that were extravagant for its time: 22 massive square columns, 12 hand-carved Italian marble fireplaces, and a 15.5-foot ceiling on the main floor. Its, quote, white ballroom, famously outfitted in all-white furnishings and finishes, exemplified the Randolphs' obsession with luxury. But just steps away in the plantation quarters were scenes of hard labor and daily survival. According to the 1860 U.S. Federal Census slave schedules, Randolph owned 155 enslaved people, making him one of the largest slaveholders in Louisiana. While these records did not list the names of those enslaved, they provide details such as age, sex, and racial classification. The majority were likely field hands who cultivated the sugar cane that powered Randolph's wealth. Others were artisans, domestic workers, blacksmiths, cooks, and nursemaids. The plantation had 42 cabins arranged in an area known as the quarters, where enslaved individuals and families lived. Randolph constructed a medical area, bathhouse, and a multi-purpose area that operated as a church on Sundays and a nursery during the week. These structures, while painted as benevolent by some post-war narratives, were not built out of humanitarian concern, comfort, or dignity, but basic facilities designed to maximize the productivity of enslaved laborers and maintain the operation of the plantation. The medical area, not a hospital by today's standards, likely a small cabin for basic medical attention. This helped preserve the labor force and prevent disease from spreading through the quarters. The bathhouse, again rudimentary, meant to promote sanitation and reduce illness in dense living quarters. Poor hygiene could lead to outbreaks that would affect productivity. The nursery and chapel building, on Sundays it was used for religious services, often led by white supervisors or pro-slavery preachers. During weekdays, it was used to keep enslaved children while their mothers worked. Women enslaved at Nottoway likely carried the double burden of working in the fields and raising children under the constant threat of separation and abuse. Children were put to work at early ages, and elders often served as caretakers or laborers until they could no longer perform. These cabins are often referenced in plantation materials as signs of Randolph's supposed progressiveness or paternalism. But historians caution against romanticizing them. They were tools of control and economic exploitation, not kindness. As the Civil War approached, Randolph made the calculated decision to relocate approximately 200 enslaved individuals he owned across all of his holdings to his Texas properties to avoid Union troops and preserve his, quote, assets to continue cotton production. He left his wife and children at Nottoway, hoping that the estate would be spared from Union destruction. Remarkably, the mansion survived the war, though it was temporarily occupied by Union troops. In 1863, Randolph fled Louisiana, and by the end of the war, emancipation brought a seismic shift to Nottoway. Tragically, no comprehensive records or databases have yet emerged documenting the names or descendants of the 155 enslaved African Americans at Nottoway. Unlike some plantations that kept detailed slave inventories or post-war Freedmen's Bureau contracts, Nottoway's archival trail is sparse. Given the fire that destroyed the mansion in 2025, any remaining personal records that may have been held on site are presumed lost. Historians continue to search for fragments that may shed a light on the individuals and identities of those who lived and worked at Nottoway. As of today, their names remain largely unspoken in public history. For years, Nottoway operated as a plantation-themed tourist attraction, wedding venue, and resort. Critics, including historians and descendants of the enslaved, argued that the site sanitized slavery and glorified the opulence of the Randolphs, while minimizing the suffering and systemic exploitation of the Black enslaved laborers who provided them with that wealth. The true story of Nottoway is not just one of architectural achievement, but of loss and erasure. Behind every polished floorboard or ornament chandelier were the hands of enslaved men, women, and children whose names history failed to record, but whose lives shaped that mansion's very foundation.
There was 155 people that built that plantation. 155 people, slaves. So I don't want nobody to be telling me nothing when you don't try to remove Black history. Do not try to remove that 155 slaves that was carpenters, architects, mothers, mistresses, bore kids, took care of their slave owners' kids. They built that plantation and ran it. Without any education, we built this country. Now, people can say whatever they want to say, but we built this country. This plantation is a reminder of what my ancestors did. How we never got anything. We have not received any reparations, anything from anybody for building this country, making other people rich, for them to have generational wealth, and we can't even get a government contract. They hijack every movement that's meant for civil rights. And you want to tell me for all of these programs they come up with, I'm sick of us getting crumbs. Matter of fact, I'm sick of these people being able to be put in anything for any affirmative action and any DEI or any programs. We should be first. And this is a prime example. We built this country. We built these houses. We picked cotton. We did sugar. We did everything. We have no generational wealth because you never wanted to see our people succeed. The only thing you want to do is send them to the devil, Lucifer, the default angel with music. They don't want to see our people get ahead. Actually, this is what any president that runs this or any corporation should be doing. They should be giving us our money that is owed to us, our reparations. Nobody puts this on the agenda, but y'all got so much to say about everything else. Everybody has received something from the United States of America other than Black people. And the views and expressed are my opinion. And I know it's not anybody's fault, but pay us just like you paid everybody else. You paid the Indians, Germans, everybody that's gotten paid from the United States of America, but black people. Black people. Now here I'm going to present another video. Bear with me for one moment.
If you or a loved one were sexually abused at these Illinois youth facilities or treatment centers, you may qualify for significant.
We didn't live in that generation, right? The main thing is the preservation of history is so important.
Oh, no, you ain't got to worry about that. They are making sure to preserve this piece of history. I believe this has been preserved. Hey, shout out to all of the subscribers and members here on the channel. Don't forgive the video a like. My name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Sadly, the Nottoway Plantation has burned down. Really? Really? That early? You already dancing? At least let me get the story out. And why are you drinking this early in the day? At least get something that looks like juice, like a wild Irish rose or night train.
And we have new details this morning on that fire at historic Nottoway Plantation in White Castle.
Yeah, you can see the devastation to this historic home. This started around 2 o'clock yesterday in the afternoon. 166-year-old home on the banks of the Mississippi, now reduced to ash. And this was early on in the fire. This is a live look now at Nottoway Plantation this morning, right after 6 a.m. We're looking at about 20 hours since this first began in Iberville Parish. And what a shot there to see, be able to look straight through what used to be a huge plantation home. Obviously, the second and third floors are gone. And I don't think this would be able to be rebuilt, JP. A lot of weddings and other events planned for this spring and summer.
That's a very famous facade. It's appeared in movies, been in many pictures. It's a postcard for Iberville Parish.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, because we're talking about, and we're going to get to the preservation of history. They're talking about the preservation of history. One thing to keep in mind is how they framed it. We talked about a home. We're talking about weddings and things of that nature. We're talking about a tourist destination. That is the energy that they are giving this plantation home. Huh? That's how they framed it.
But as you can see, most of that facade is gone. And there's kind of a interesting shot there. April, I think that looks like what's left of a chimney that's still standing that extended up to the second floor. But as you can see, we've got firefighters. They've been there for more than 24 hours. They've been there all night, hosing down any possible hot spots. It just shows you how intense that fire was.
Now, shout out to my man, Bernard Taylor, who gave us a look from the firefighters' point of view.
I think that you should let it burn.
When it started to spread yesterday, they thought they had confined it to one area of the building, sort of to the left of what you're looking at there, but then it spread to the main part of the building, what they call the museum. Lots of artifacts, lots of historic mementos and paintings and things in those.
What kind of artifacts? What kind of historic mementos? And you being too vague. You being. I need you to specify the nature of the artifacts, sir. This is not a good tour. 2 stars.
I don't know if those were destroyed. They managed to salvage some of those and get them out, but looks like it is a total loss.
Yeah, we did speak to someone yesterday about the significance of the history of this home.
I got my boo. You just gonna dance on the news like that? You don't want to say a few words. You don't want to get no shout outs, nothing like that.
Burn, baby, burn.
Okay.
Disco Inferno.
No, we all saw it. No, we all saw it. Channel 4, right?
You know, everybody have their own opinions on Nottoway, but it is, you know, it is White Castle. It's one of the biggest slave plantations in Louisiana. You know, it's historical. Like I said, everybody have their own opinions on it, but as human, as people, as White Castle, we have to think about the people, you know, who's providing for their families while working in Nottoway, working there, you know, no matter what their position was, it was still someone's livelihood, someone's job, source of income.
Now, there was a sentiment that I saw online talking about the people working at White Castle and the kinds of people that are providing for their families. And I certainly would extend my concern out to those people to make sure that they're taken care of. But let's see what they were up to on the end. Let's see what was going on the inside, huh?
I used to be a tour guide at Nottoway Plantation. Nottoway was not talking about history properly. They regularly threatened my job because I was, quote, too emotional about the historical context and slavery there. I was there from 2017 till 2020 when COVID hit. The amount of ridiculous nonsense that I had to talk about on that tour was overwhelming. Dutch people, when they came in, because there were thousands of people from all around the world that would come in, the Dutch people knew more about the history of the transatlantic slave trade than the majority of people that worked at the plantation. I'm glad it burned down. Make no mistake.
Well, all right then. I would say let he who has not wished their old job burn.
Well. And I want to comment on that. Again, they did not want to talk about slaves building that beautiful, elegant building. What was so hard to say slaves built it? Oh, that's right, because, we can't do anything. You see, we're carpenters, we're architects, we're designers. They had to polish them floors, strip them floors, lay them floors down. They did everything, roofing everything. It's in our genes. It's in us. And these people did not want you to say, did not want the workers, when they did tours on this elegant, lavish place, to say that it was built by slaves. Burn, baby, burn.
Down. Cast the first stone.
And Nottoway was a staple in White Castle. I mean, everyone from all over the world came here to tour Nottoway. Just the history. I mean, this was built, in the Civil War. It stood this whole time, and now to see it just burned down.
Do you have a car? Do you have a clean driving record? Did you know that you could pay as low as $39 a month in car insurance? How might you ask? It's super easy. Click below, enter your zip code, tell us basic information.
It's really sad.
It's a day that we were always afraid of.
Thick smoke and flames rose from the historic Nottoway Plantation Thursday afternoon, a 160-year-old structure in Iberville Parish, sparking conversation about its legacy.
There's so much controversy with the past, but You know, in the generations that we didn't live in that generation, right? The main thing is the preservation of history is so important.
Oh, no, you ain't got to worry about that. They are making sure to preserve this piece of history. I believe this has been preserved. Now, I do find it fascinating the shift to preserving history because that wasn't the way that this was framed by the news folks when they talked about the fire, huh? They were talking about a tourist destination. That's what they were talking about. And you mentioned that we didn't live in that particular generation. And I do think it is important to realistically educate people about past generations and to have things that can identify the history, our shared history that we've all come through. Now, naturally, y'all don't want to talk about any of that, which is why it hasn't been brought up. The only person who brought up slavery was the brother. I wonder if that might have something to do with the community's reaction.
Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Fire. Woo, 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 woo. Nottoway Plantation down there right underneath Baton Rouge, home to 150-some slaves, is burning to the ground. Thank you, ancestors. Mind you, people love this God-forsaken, evil-ass place. Look at this place, it's the shit they got on this property, y'all. They got the nerve to call this fucking cursed ground a damn resort. It was owned by John Randolph. May he burn in hell continuously. And all his fucking family members. And I hope some of them on this page right now. I don't know if the ancestors wanted to remind us to keep up the good fight of faith or what. Nigga, I ain't never been so happy to see smoke billowing. God damn it. Look at the beautiful, beautiful footage. I know. Some of y'all say, Darian, this is a historical landmark. Fuck this historical landmark. Burn, baby, burn. That's where it's located. God bless you, ancestors. God knows I wish we could have been there to put some on the grill when this bitch burnt to the ground. Here's to many more burning up. Fire.
And by the way, since we're talking about history,
The main thing is the preservation of history is so important.
as he said, it's important to preserve history. Why don't we get into the history a little bit of Nottoway Plantation, shall we?
The scene behind me is a plantation house in Louisiana that burned down. It's burning down in this video. But this is not just any plantation house. This was the largest antebellum plantation house in the South, owned by one of the richest enslavers in the South. This is the Nottoway Plantation in Louisiana. It was built by enslaved Africans in 1859. It was owned by this guy, John Randolph. Now, John wasn't even from Louisiana. He was from Virginia originally, but he came from a wealthy slave-owning family, and his dad was hired by the federal government to do something in Louisiana, and he moved with him. Now, originally, he wanted to make it into a cotton plantation, the same type of plantation that he was used to in Virginia. But he noticed that the climate in Louisiana was a lot different, so he changed it to a sugar plantation. And because of that, he ended up tripling his family's wealth. John Randolph enslaved 176 people, but the plantation house itself was built around the same time as the Civil War. John didn't want to fight in the Civil War. He was scared. So he sent 3 of his sons and he asked, how much money do I have to give to keep me out of this? And he was a huge financial backer of the Confederacy in Louisiana. When he realized that the Confederacy was losing, he left his wife in Louisiana, took 200 slaves, and went to Texas. Once the Civil War was over, he contracted with 53 bonded people, basically people that owed him money and were working to pay it off. It's just another form of slavery. He eventually died in 1883, and his wife eventually sold the plantation for $50,000. That's the equivalent of $1.9 million today. And now he has no legacy at all.
Why don't we pour one out for John Randolph, shall we?
Somebody take me.
Now, this man not only was a slaver, but he didn't want to fight in the Civil War. This is so fascinating. He didn't want to fight in the Civil War. So he sent his sons to go fight in the Civil War. I mean, at least the rich people now had the decency to keep their whole family out of it. I don't know which one is worse, quite frankly. Was he going to wake his sons up when he heard a noise downstairs to go investigate too? He just went and said, and then left his wife in the house like she was going to stop the pillaging. That is the kind of history that y'all wanted to preserve. Is that it? Because that was the argument, y'all were preserving history though, right? Although that's a little dubious.
If you didn't know, Nottoway Plantation in Louisiana just burned down. And to that I say, why did it take so long in the first place? But of course, there's people crying about it. I'm so sorry that you're not going to be able to have your weddings at a place that served as ground for some of the most disgusting atrocities a human being could possibly go through. I'm so sorry that you won't be able to rent out an Airbnb where multiple generations of people lost their lives. And I'm going to resist saying that this is karma, because unless the original owners of this plantation are burning with it, it doesn't really count. No, I don't care what caused the fire. Honestly, like, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I'm all for it this time. And you're going to have a really tough time if you go to Nottoway Plantation's website looking and finding the word slavery written in there, because I feel like they might have left it off there because they don't want to ruin you being able to have your wedding there, to actively think about what that house was used for originally. It was a plantation. I know some of you are going to come in here and say, well, it was just a place for history. If it was a place for history, don't allow weddings to happen there. Look at Auschwitz. They kept it as a memory of what happened. They didn't rent it out for weddings. If it was truly to remember the legacy of the people that died on that plantation, then you should have left it at that.
After watching Nottoway Plantation burn to the ground, I can't help but feel that we're all going to have a great weekend. We just need to acknowledge the important moment this is in history. I want you to really think about it. When else in history could we see something like this? Civil War? Yeah, plantations set on fire. The Haitian Revolution? Yeah, lots of plantations on fire. And I think it's a good omen. In Mississippi, we grew up having to go to these places as a part of the school culture.
You know what's sad? Y'all trying to remove our history. It won't work, baby. It won't work. See, this is just a reminder right now of who built this country along with the Indians. A reminder that we never got anything. So, for all of you politicians and all of you gatekeepers, why don't you make sure we get some reparations?
Curriculum. When I was a girl, I never got or understood. People could have parties at them and weddings at them. My mother very notoriously said that Black people don't go to weddings at plantations. Look at it. I could look at this all day. The reason I'm happy to see the actual house on fire and burned to the ground is because I can feel in my spirit the countless hours that I know Black women spent laboring and grueling in that house in close, intimate spaces with people that were oppressing them, rocking their baby, fixing their food, brushing their hair. So it feels right to see it leveled, burned absolutely to the ground.
So Nottoway Plantation burned down in Louisiana, and the amount of people and brides posting their photos in front of the plantation and just the whitewashing is honestly mind-blowing to me. Is it an absolutely beautiful home, and am I sad that people are out of their jobs? Absolutely. But let's not forget how problematic plantations are and how it's freaking wild that people even honestly get married at plantations. I'm sorry if that offends you, but the history behind them and your Black friends that have to attend those weddings, I just feel like I can't keep quiet about it anymore because it's so infuriating to me. And of course, as it never fails in the comment sections for Louisiana news, there's so many people saying, oh, get over it. Oh, it was so long ago, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. And it's just so deeply problematic to me and so infuriating. I have no words because it's so frustrating. Please, for the love of God, look up the history of this plantation home and its original owners, please. And the backs of the slaves that it was built on. And their living quarters, and stop acting like it's some great piece of history that we should all adore. It's beautiful, yes. I'll give you that.
Wait a minute. So not only did these people decide to get married at a plantation, mind you, but they're identifying themselves by posting the photos now. Just think about the mindset. You want everything to go off without a hitch on your wedding day, and it doesn't bother you the history of this particular edifice, or even how it was constructed. How about that? It is just so beautiful. This is unbelievable. Your mind doesn't go to how it was built. Not even then. Not even then. You have to be so disconnected from humanity to not only get married. I don't believe people. They're not. Are they really posting photos now? With her family, without a hint of shame or irony. It's like, look, families were separated and devastated. Women were violated and families were forced upon them. And you sit up there with your family. But I'm supposed to believe that you're colorblind, right? Because keep in mind, if this hadn't happened to us, if this was a historical site that was the place of atrocities that had happened to them, do you think there would be this kind of energy? Not just the preserving of history, but turning it into a resort. You think they would turn it into a resort if it was the history of, I don't know, Irish or Italian atrocities? Now, here's the part of the conversation where we address all of the people that got in their feelings about the Black joy that erupted after the Nottoway fire. Now let's play a game. Let's play a game called, Is This Person Just Racist? Are they making any legitimate points? Or did this person just find an opportunity to be racist? Not unlike the Black fatigue discussion that we had last week. All right, let's go to our first contestant. See, regarding the Nottoway Plantation in Iberville Parish, the comments about this loss are abhorrent. Some in the Black community cheer this as a victory. Meanwhile, the ignorance of the erasure of America's history continues as monuments and milestones disappear, like the communists in times past during the reign of Mao and Stalin. It is the lack of understanding of who we were and who we are that is so important. These homes tell a story of a bygone era. I will not celebrate, but cry tears of those before who lived and died. Many races around the globe had slaves. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Slavery is currently happening en masse. What we need is understanding and a better education. Oh, okay. So many people had slaves. I wonder if all of the locations where we know that slaves were held and buildings that were constructed by slaves have all been turned into resorts? Or does that make this one unique? This is our history, not currently happening, but history. We don't burn down things we don't like, but we learn from it. Who said burn down? Who said burn down? So you just gone and dog whistled that it was burnt down in order to eliminate the history. I wonder why you would do a thing like that. That's curious. As a lover of old buildings and homes, I am offended by the racist comments. We are Americans. None of us are slaves. My ancestors from France suffered greatly in Europe. Here's a question. How would you feel if Here's a question. How would you feel if a resort was constructed at the place of that suffering? My ancestors from France suffered greatly in Europe. Should we burn that down as well? Okay, here we, for a second time, assert that it was burned down intentionally by Black people for that specific reason. And secondly, I missed the part where they constructed a resort and have people having their day to commemorate their love at the site of your ancestors' suffering. I missed. Maybe it just got omitted. Maybe it's too many characters, maybe. Blacks are but one race enslaved in America, not to mention blacks and whites at that time were slave owners. We're going to go ahead and keep minimizing that. I have stayed in some of these homes. That's not shocking. Weird how black and white seem to enjoy the tours and the grounds. Well, that's interesting. You're projecting that black and white enjoy the tours and the grounds while devaluing the experiences of those that are reacting in a different way. You know what I mean? I want to discredit the people that are reacting in a different way, but I'm just going to go ahead and assert that y'all enjoyed the grounds. Are you sure? Would you like to ask them? Southern history matters, all of it. By the way, slavery ended in 1863. It's time to find another scapegoat. Oh, and the wheels just fell off at the end, didn't they? They just really fell off. We started with a defense of the building for historical purposes, segued into minimizing slavery, and now you want to talk about the conditions of Black America because it's time to find another scapegoat. Congratulations, you're just racist. Contestant number 2, come on down. These blacks posting, all right, any tweet starting with these blacks is like, we're done. These blacks, you can't follow these blacks with anything that's not racist unless it's these blacks have run all over the rest of my clothes. These blacks posting all over social media celebrating the fire at Nottoway Plantation, they don't contribute anything to society, and they actually celebrate the destruction of history. Their culture is crime, drugs, having fatherless homes with 12 kids, and destroying history and anything with meaning. Sir,
Woo, child. Now, right there, we have a lot. We contributed to this country. We have a lot. We contributed to this country. For them to say that, see, this is what they've always done, is labeled us instead of paying us, instead of giving us our fair credit of building this United Snakes of America. Hello, Jester T, Shatika, the Bud Files, TNT, Michelle, everybody that's in here. You know, it's a shame, but I really wish that our ancestors, people like Martin and Malcolm, they could have kept us separate, but gave us our money.
I need to figure out what that had to do with Nottoway Plantation. I like you, that was already in your drafts. Like, you didn't need to include them. You posted that yesterday without the top part about the Nottoway Plantation. You ain't slick. Congratulations. You're just racist. And you know it, and you're proud of it. That's why you already had that one ready to go. Next. The way blacks and white Bolsheviks are celebrating the burning of Nottoway Plantation is a reminder they would do the same to you and everything you love and cherish. They hate white people and the things we built, love, and cherish, our traditions. We can rebuild it all. Did you say everything we built? Is that what you said? Then you might be in the wrong discussion, because we talk about a plantation that was built by slaves. So I don't know what the everything we built is about. And you say that we can rebuild it all. Well, they told me that it was about preserving history. So go ahead and rebuild the plantation in 2025 by all means. Now, here's the thing. And this is why I'm not angry about the level of racism that's coming from white people that are reacting to Black people's joy, is you see that you have no justification for your argument by just being racist. Your problem is you don't like that Black people have found something to electric slide over. You're mad that Black people are enjoying Night Train during the daytime and dancing. That's what so you will find any instance in which we do that, you would object in the. This ain't got nothing to do with Nottoway Plantation, other than the fact that you would like to go back to that time. And speaking of back to that time, this is what we're talking about here. Yesterday, I visited Nottoway Plantation. I have no words for the horror show of antebellum plantation romance. Greeted at the entrance by banner advertising a romantic fairy tale wedding, complete with only white guests, of course. They didn't even Photoshop a brother into the wedding. They at least do that for the college brochures. We were met at the entrance by our Black American tour guide, who started the tour with a scripted introduction, including the words, "Yes, there was slavery here, and yes, I am Black, but there's no point being bitter about it." That was the only time slavery was mentioned. Do you think that was actually part of the script? What would have been better is if they were reading it. That would, yes, I am Black, and yes, there was slavery, but there is no point in being bitter about it. Now, here's my favorite. 2 of these are in the entrance hallway. In fact, they're the first thing you see as you walk in. The worst thing about this is that they're not original to the house. If they're not original, then why are they there except to reinforce white fantasies about Black servitude? Okay. I've seen enough. You mean to tell me it wasn't bad enough that we're preserving a slave plantation, but you brought in artifacts from outside to reinforce that fact? I object to the tour guide. I think there is a point in being bitter about it. This plantation, Nottoway Plantation, had over 155 slaves. If I Google it, I get all these depictions of its fine architecture. Can you imagine if I Googled a World War II concentration camp or a Japanese internment camp in the US, and the first thing I got was who designed it? If that ain't the Black experience, I don't know what is.
The largest plantation in America just burned down. Here's an example, another one, and another one. But that's not even the craziest part. Nottoway Plantation was a plantation resort. Can you imagine a Holocaust labor camp being a place you could get a spa day, a massage, and chill by the pool? Well, we don't got to worry about that anymore because Nottoway is gone. Let the tape roll.
To the white people that are so mad that we don't give a about that Nottoway plantation that was just burned down, fuck you. First of all, why the fuck would we give a fuck about a plantation that our ancestors were slaved on, murdered, hung, beat, and forced into fucking labor, forced to pick fucking cotton as they hands bleed? Bitch, we don't give a fuck that y'all mad. Let mother burn. And to all the people that say, oh, it's for the history, we humbly decline. Fuck that history, because y'all done played in our face too long. Y'all talking about history when, bitch, all we see is fucking movies about slavery this. Oh, massa? Oh, come on, massa. How many fucking Root movies was it? Did we even need all them Root movies? Write it down, take a picture, but we didn't need that fucking plantation to be standing that fucking long anyway. Thanks, Annabella.
So it's no wonder why this is the energy that we have given this entire thing. And by the way, this is a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece. This is actually the kind of thing, if it was on the wall in there, somebody should have went and got it. Now, all is not lost. Well, emotionally, all is not lost. There are some things you can pick up in the ashes of this. This could end up being a positive for you.
Nottoway Plantation went up in flames, as it should have. This does make me think about all the people that are stupid enough or disgusting enough to get married at a plantation. Like, what do you think their marriages are like? Because considering the famous people that I know that have been married on plantations, their marriages fucking suck. And that makes sense, right? Because look at where you're choosing to get married. You're proclaiming that this marriage is like held in the highest regard by God, and you're getting married in a place that is essentially godless. Y'all screaming all day and night about demons, but for some reason, the tree that you chose to get married under, that like 4 people have hung off of, that's not demonic. Like, are we slow, stupid, or disgusting? And you really think that energy is not going to reach into your marriage? Like, oh, we've been married for 10 years, and he's giving you exactly 3 orgasms that entire time. And that's what you deserve, because y'all decided to get married at a plantation. You disgusting bitch.
So there you have it. This actually might help your love lives. You know what I mean? Maybe we get that divorce rate down. This might, ain't that what they always talk about, the nuclear family? Maybe this might help the nuclear family in America not getting married with places with these kinds of histories. And yes, I'm looking at you, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. Huh? Oh, that was a whole different plantation? Well, they better look out for that one. That's all I know. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Don't forget to give us a like and a share if you are so inclined. And I know
So there we have it. That's just the opinion of a few people. So I'm going to read what they said on MSNBC. The antebellum mansion burned and took a lot of Black history with it. You know, they want to remove Black history. They want people to forget that we built this country. We took care of their kids. They made millions of dollars. They have generational wealth due to slaves. With its 200 windows and 165 doors, fashioned by enslaved craftsmen. See, they were craftsmen, the slaves was, and put in place with enslaved labor. So we built this for free. Louisiana's Nottoway Plantation was the south largest antebellum mansion or big house. It was also a place that tour guides infamously sold a romanticized and sanitized version of plantation life. Hold on. And for generations, those who ran the plantation hosted weddings, graduation, and school field trips where Black school children and their parents often felt diminished and alienated. As the Associated Press has noted, Nottoway, they make no mention of enslaved former inhabitants on its website. A fire on last Thursday that destroyed Nottoway's big house led to a predictable response. Some Black people posted selfies, presumably taking a Nottoway that showed the burning house behind them. People shared memes that added the images of Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, uncharacteristically grinning, to photos of the mansion on fire. Other memes show Black people enjoying an outdoor cookout with the burning house in the background. We're very devastated. We're upset. We're sad. We're sad. Dan Dimes, a co-owner with his wife of the Plantation Resort, told the Times. Pakunyan, the advocate, we put a lot of time, effort, and money to developing the property. Still, after the fire, some voices rightly expressed that all such sites should burn. Simultaneously, some white people wistfully mourned an irreplaceable architectural gem that slaves built. You know, I'm adding on to this. They call it an architectural gem that slaves built and moment in America. Reed Southern, grander, and responded to the celebration of the fire as an assault on their heritage, the same way many responded in 2017 to the removal of Confederate monuments downriver in New Orleans. So you got different people that's posting, you know, because it was the largest remaining antebellum mansion in the United States. But they have John Randolph, he enslaved 150 people. You know, they show the slave quarters, and I'll show those pictures again. But, you know, we built this. We built this. So, the writer of the article goes on to say, I'm not mourning in the same way that those embracing myths of the lost cause and the ideal of moonlight and magnolias are, but I'm mourning the loss of another opportunity to teach about the history of enslavement. Our material history, including at places such as Nottoway, has messages for us. There are bricks where our ancestors' fingerprints remain. Spiritual caches, crystals, and sometimes lone cowrie shells reflecting traditional African beliefs. There are signs there of Islamic practices and practices of the early Black church. Even a rat's nest found in Charleston, South Carolina, had much to tell us about the past. It wasn't just a rat nest. It had been fashioned from the pages from a 19th century speller. In the darkness, hidden from the enslaver prying eyes, we were learning to read. The destruction of Nottoway isn't a trending story for me. I am a historic interpreter, not a reenactor, and such places have been the focus of my research. I even wrote my award-winning memoir, The Cooking Gem, tracing my ancestry from Africa to America, from enslavement to emancipation, using the story of African American food combined with the battle over how our history gets told and who gets to tell it. Many plantation homes and living history sites are tied to colonial and antebellum slavery, both South and North. They have never been cheap to maintain or preserve, hence the need to bring in crowds that's spinning big, sanitizing the brutality of slavery and promoting their properties as wedding venues is a way for those who operate such places to increase revenue. But the general refusal to confront the truth of history and balance the messaging. So a lot of people are glad that this place burned down, because a lot of people felt like this should have been a tourist attraction and they should have talked about the slavery, the slave people. Underneath white supremacist propaganda help explain the glee many felt at Nottoway's destruction. I felt it disheartening while doing research for the cooking gene that one of my ancestors, Harry Townsend, who was sold as a child from North Carolina through Virginia to Alabama, had a bill of sale and a value for his body on the death of his slave owner. He had run for freedom, and there was even a receipt. There was even a receipt for his return by a slave catcher. But there's no record of my ancestor's grave, and most of the land where he was enslaved is now underneath a mall. Places such as Nottoway that glorified the buildings that enslaved people built, but ignored the pain and suffering those enslaved people experience, contribute to another kind of erasure. It's really sad, and I'm going to share another tab. You know, this is the fight. That one's not playing. So what are y'all thoughts on this burning? What is the audience response? Those that are in the chat, how do you feel about this? You know, this was a reminder, in my opinion. Seems like it wants to play now. Yeah, it probably was haunted. BOM, how you been doing? Just the T, I need you to inbox me because you've been a great mod, and I want to send you a little something. Let me put my email in here. If you can email me, you've been a great mod. Oh, the story gets even better because they still want to rebuild. Hold on, everybody. Oh, come on. You got people saying the spirits returned. You know, this has been a lot. You see that? That's where they got circled. Looks like a slave where they're saying that the spirits returned. Oh my goodness. This internet. I don't know. Just bear with me, everybody. I can't even get back to the screen to see what you guys thought. Yeah, hold on, Michelle. That's the next article I'm going to bring up. Hold on. Hey, Naomi. I am back, y'all. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties and the slow internet. I don't know who's kicking me out. Hold on. So, according to the New York Post, the owner of the largest remaining antebellum mansion in the South, which burned to the ground this week, hopes the 166-year-old Louisiana home will rise again. So it's owned by an attorney. So he wants to rebuild the home. Ain't that something? Oh, ain't that something? Hold on. Trying to find another article I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, any day now. Okay. Hold on. Come on. Yeah, it could never be replaced. So I am going to have to end this show. I don't know. I'm having all kind of issues, but I did want to share with y'all. Hold on. Yeah, the owner wants to rebuild the place. Hold on, let's see what we got going.
Nottoway Plantation. Nottoway Plantation was the largest surviving antebellum mansion. It was located in White Castle, Louisiana, which is just downriver from Baton Rouge. The architect was a guy named Henry Howard, and he designed the home beautifully. That's where the beauty ends. The people who built that home were enslaved. The owner of that home has said they're probably going to rebuild, or they're going to consider rebuilding. To the owner of that home, I need you to take a second and consider whose history we're honoring by rebuilding that plantation. I am the daughter of Southerners. My ancestors almost certainly owned other human beings, but I feel like it's my place to say we don't need to honor that. We do not need to preserve the legacy of the white people who enslaved other humans. And so, yes, the mansion brought in tourist dollars to the parish. And yes, the mansion was beautiful. But no, you do not need to build it back how it was. Other suggestions are, I don't know, letting the community have input in what happens to that property, coming up with some sort of creative idea that honors the legacy of the people who lived and died on that land.
So there you have it. You know, there's a lot of people. You know, they do not want this place to be rebuilt.
Along the Mississippi River in White Castle stands a Louisiana landmark, one of the largest surviving antebellum mansions in the South. Nottoway Plantation was built in 1859 and has witnessed a changing world since its pre-Civil War origins. Most antebellum homes are lost to history, burned to the ground, or leveled by years of neglect. Nottoway has endured and enters a new chapter under new ownership.
This was like a long-standing dream you had.
This is like the dream of my life. I was a history major in college, and I love preservation. And I came down here about 6 years ago to a wedding, and so after that, I was just determined to see if it was even at all possible to buy Nottoway.
Dan Dice and his wife Desiree purchased Nottoway with the aim of restoring the home to its former glory as an economic catalyst for Iberville Parish. The couple lives in Natchitoches, where they restored, own, and operate Steel Magnolia House and La Maison Louisiane, both historic bed and breakfast establishments.
We've been fixing things. Because 2020 of COVID, it basically shut down. There were people here, but there was no activity. And so we had to do all the deferred maintenance, air conditioning, heating, painting, restoration of bricks, all kind of things. very soon we're going to have the Mansion restaurant open. So I really am excited to be here.
The mansion's architecture blends Greek Revival and Italianate styles. Henry Howard, a prominent architect in 19th century Louisiana, designed Nottoway and several grand homes along the Mississippi River, including Indian Camp Plantation in Carville, the former campus of the Gillis W. Long Hansen's Disease Center, and now a present-day Louisiana National Guard installation.
It's an icon, you know, it's like the state of Louisiana.
Randy LaPrairie worked as Nottoway's head of maintenance for 31 years. He painted a mural in the downstairs restaurant that expresses his affinity for the property. News of Nottoway's new ownership brought him out of retirement and back to the grounds.
It is, definitely, you know. Something need to be saved.
What is it about Nottoway that made you come back here out of retirement to work here again?
Well, you know, when you've been here 31 years, you know, you didn't raise your kids, your whole family off this property, you know, and it's like, so you appreciate what it is. And so it's like, you know, you want to see it succeed.
Nottoway's oak canopy grounds include cottages for overnight stays, a restaurant, an event center, and ballrooms, including the iconic white ballroom in the main house. The photogenic property has played host to countless weddings over the years and appeared in movies.
I want it to be open to our community, and the bigger community of Louisiana. It is a diamond in the rough for Louisiana. And so we're going to move Louisiana forward with a great property. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt. We're going to have a Christmas day. We want this to be a festive place to go.
We're excited about Dan and Desiree's commitment to revitalizing Nottoway. Nottoway is just a staple in Iberville Parish, and for their commitment to make sure that they're preserving the history, because Nottoway has welcomed visitors from across the world for over 40 years. So we're really excited about the future.
Nottoway was originally the home of sugar planter John Randolph. Its elegance and grandeur at odds with the human toil that funded its construction. Dan acknowledges Nottoway's past cannot be dismissed nor ignored, but he wants to give the property a new legacy that celebrates Nottoway's architectural value and brings people together.
It's about a happiness thing. I mean, I want to preserve it for future generations, and I want people to enjoy it. It's right here on the Mississippi River. It's historic, so I want people to enjoy it. I want to have fun here, and that's what I want to happen.
And there you go. The new owner bought it in March, and you see what happened. You see what happened. And so I'm getting ready to leave you with just this thought right here.
At Nottoway Plantation. Nottoway Plantation was the largest surviving antebellum mansion. It was located in White Castle, Louisiana, which is just downriver from Baton Rouge. The architect was a guy named Henry Howard, and he designed the home beautifully. That's where the beauty ends. The people who built that home were enslaved. The owner of that home has said they're probably going to rebuild, or they're going to consider rebuilding. To the owner of that home, I need you to take a second and consider whose history we're honoring by rebuilding that plantation. I am the daughter of Southerners. My ancestors almost certainly owned other human beings, but I feel like it's my place to say we don't need to honor that. We do not need to preserve the legacy of the white people who enslaved other humans. And so, yes, the mansion brought in tourist dollars to the parish. And yes, the mansion was beautiful. But no, you do not need to build it back how it was. Other suggestions are, I don't know, letting the community have input in what happens to that property, coming up with some sort of creative idea that honors the legacy of the people who lived and died on that land.
So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. You know, this plantation burned last week. A lot of people are very happy that it burned down because, you know, it was a nice, beautiful place, but it was built by slaves, and they never wanted to acknowledge that when they gave tours. So again, you know, they're trying to erase the history of what our enslaved ancestors did in this country. This is April Showers, and I thank you guys for joining me. And sorry for the technical difficulties. Everybody have a great day.